Hello Planeswalkers, Andrew here bringing you a brand new deck tech. Today I'm going to be trying out a new kind of format that Tyler's been paving the way for, where we don't go over every single card in the deck, we just go over the highlights, and it's a lot less scripted. So this deck tech is going to be on Arcades the Strategist, which is a 3/5 Elder Dragon for 1 and the full Bant that has flying and vigilance. And whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So, needless to say, this is going to be heavily focused on playing Defenders. There are a lot of Defenders that have really high toughness and are really cheap, and we're also going to capitalize on Arcades' trigger, where when you play a Defender, you draw a card. So we're going to be trying to draw through our deck by playing Defenders. Some nice Defenders that we run here are going to be like Hover Barrier, which is an 0/6 with flying that only costs 3 mana. So it's pretty cheap, and with Arcades out it becomes a 6/6 flyer for 3 mana, which is pretty good. Some other Defenders that we have are like Shield Sphere, which costs nothing and is a 0/6. The only thing is, if it blocks, you put a -0/-1 counter on it, which, as you might be able to imagine, they don't use those counters anymore for a reason. They're a little confusing. But basically, as long as you're only swinging out with it, it won't get any smaller. We have Wall of Denial, which is another Defender with flying. It only costs 3 mana and is an 0/8. Moving on, we have Wall of Junk, which only costs 2 mana for an 0/7, and whenever it blocks, return it to its owner's hand at end of combat. This is another one where if you're just using it for offense, you're not going to worry about that drawback, but maybe Arcades not out, or maybe you have really big attackers swinging into you, and you have to use it as a blocker. And it only costs 2 mana, so when it does get bounced back to your hand, it's not a real big deal. We have Wall of Tanglecord, which is an 0/6 for 2, and you can pay a green to give it reach until end of turn, because we really want to be able to deal with flyers. You'll see in the deck list, if you go to the description below, there are more walls that can deal with flyers that either have reach or flying. And yeah. Next up is a 3 and a blue Shapeshifter wall that is Wall of Stolen Identity. When it enters the battlefield, you may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a wall in addition to its other types and has Defender. When you do, tap the copied creature and it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Wall of Stolen Identity. So basically, you play this, you get a copy of any creature on the board, which you usually want to copy an opponent's creature. They lose the ability to attack and block with it, because it becomes tapped permanently, for the most part, and then you get a copy of it. It's very versatile, very handy. Now we've got some ways of capitalizing on all of our card draw, such as Alhammarret's Archive, which doubles your life gain and doubles your card draw, except for the first card you draw on each of your draw steps. We've got Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and Laboratory Maniac, which both have the ability where if you draw a card from an empty library, you win the game instead of losing it. Let's see, we've got Spellbook, which removes your hand limit. You're also going to want to run things like Reliquary Tower or Thought Vessel, Wizard class, things that remove your hand limit, because you're going to be drawing a lot of cards. Because the whole thing is, you have a bunch of cheap walls, which means you're going to be playing them, drawing more cheap walls, and since you're in green and blue, you're going to have enough mana to just keep going for a while and just dig through your deck. We have Towering Titan, which enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the total toughness of other creatures I control, and you can sacrifice the Defender. All creatures gain trample until end of turn. So this is a good way of making just a huge creature. If you have several of your really cheap but high toughness walls out, then you're going to get a really big Towering Titan, We got stuff like the Birth of Meletis, which when it enters, it's a saga first off for only 2 mana. When it enters, you search for basic planes, reveal it, put it into your hand. Then you make an 0/4 wall, and then you gain 2 life. So this gets you a land and makes you another wall. We have some ramp in the forms of Cultivate and Farseek and Growth Spiral. Growth Spiral is one of my all-time favorites. We've also got Kodama's Reach and 3 visits. And we have some removal in the forms of Path to Exile and Return to Nature. This is a real fun deck. I always have fun piloting it. I just love the value that you get from it. You play cheap creatures, draw more cards that are usually more cheap creatures. But yeah, I always have a real good time piloting this deck. Lots of value. I just think anything that has blue and green in it is going to be super strong. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you check out the deck list down below. If you did and want to see more from us in the future, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And as always, have a great day. Hopefully you couldn't hear my roommate that whole time. Yeah, sorry. Anyways... Cat leaves my room, I close the door, and then he gets mad at me. Cat, you can either take this out or make it funny. I have my cat Figment, who is about 6 months old. Are you gonna start digging in your litter when I'm trying to record? Right. Figment, you're fine. You're fine. Figment's making a bit of a cameo. Here. Meow into the mic. Meow into the mic, bud. He is right next to the mic now. Hi, bud. Trying to record. You're fine, bud.